MacVoices is supported by ATTO. For over 30 years, ATTO Technology has been a global leader across the IT and media and entertainment markets, specializing in storage and network connectivity and infrastructure solutions for the most data-intensive computing environments. ATTO works with partners to deliver high-end solutions to better store, manage, and deliver data. Find out more at atto.com. Hi, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices at AltConf and WWDC in San Jose. Folks, MacStadium has been a regular supporter of AltConf, and I've got Chris here to tell us what they're showing that's new this year, because MacStadium always has something new, Chris.
Yep, and I'm actually relatively new to MacStadium. I'm building a software team there, so one of the things we're really trying to do is improve the overall interaction and ease of use for MacStadium from just a hardware provider to an actual full experience like AWS or Azure, where you can really get access to your resources quickly and easily through the web.
So let's back up for just a second and say what MacStadium is, although you just alluded to it.
Yeah, so we deliver tons and tons of Apple hardware at enterprise scale in data centers around the world. So we take the thing that sits on your desktop like a Mini or a Pro and scale it up and make it super redundant and resilient and put it in data centers. And the reason that matters is as people start building really cool apps for Apple products, they need a lot of build capacity, they need a lot of machines to do the work, and we take care of the hassle of doing all of that.
You make it sound so easy.
Well, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but it does end up easy for our customers, hopefully. And that's again the drive for some of the new stuff, is to make that even easier.
So what specifically is new this year with MacStadium that you're showing to developers here?
So we are launching a beta product now called Orka, which stands for Orchestration with Kubernetes on Apple. So in development generally, there are technologies called Kubernetes and Docker that are really kind of changing the shape of how people develop software. It lets you focus less on managing hardware or even an operating system in a virtual machine and really just focus on the code and the stuff the code needs to run in what they call a container. So what we've actually done is containerized the whole Mac OS and plugged it into these tools over Mac hardware. So we're still staying in check with Apple and compliant with Mac OS on Mac hardware, but we're bringing in all these new innovative interfaces so that you can use a whole litany of tools that developers are using everywhere to really quickly and easily with single commands spin up as many Mac OSs as you want for your testers, builders, and everything, and create image types and do a lot of things that what we find when we get into mobile teams is there's the mobile team that does Android and everything else, and then there's the iOS guys, and they sort of have the whole, like we say, build different kind of issue, and it's good and bad. The DevOps guys tend to grumble when they have to deal with the Apple hardware and all the rest of the stuff because we're special. And we're kind of trying to help everybody come to parity, and these tools really let them use some of the same technologies and interfaces that their other peers are getting to use, but still stick in the Apple world.
Okay. There's a lot there. You've used a phrase that I'm not familiar with, and I'm sure that a lot of the viewers are not familiar with, Kubernetes.
Yeah.
What is Kubernetes?
So Google, as they grew and scaled out, basically were trying to create a platform technology that made it quick and easy and efficient to scale applications and capacity globally across data centers. So they built Kubernetes, and it really does just that. It connects across geographies, it connects across resources, and it really helps a single app go from one location to all over the place. And they did it selfishly so that hardware was sort of blurred away from you. So if you were building, say, a globally dominating search engine, you never could tell if it went down or where it was coming from or anything. You just knew it was there when you needed it and always available. So Kubernetes is that platform, and it has a lot of capability that would take a lot of code and complexity and knowledge of infrastructure and networking to really do, but it kind of comes for free in it, and they open sourced it, and it caught fire, and the world's really using it quite a bit now. It's kind of the buzzword in dev land. So again, people like it because I can build Chris's simple app, throw it in a Kubernetes container, get a load balancer for free, get networking for free, get security for free, get scalability for free, or it's in there for me to use readily. So it helps me have to stop thinking so much about how I'm going to succeed with all of that and just focus on what I need to do.
But okay, so I heard everything you say, but I also heard what you said about Orka.
Yeah.
So is there a particular challenge with implementing Kubernetes on Apple hardware?
Yeah, it's not easy by default.
He takes a deep breath.
Yeah. For one, Kubernetes is typically a custom implementation that lives on a Linux layer. So there's some making sure that works right with the hardware. And then for Apple, it's not really geared toward Apple. So there's taking into all the concerns of how Apple's architected and built. And then with Orka, we're actually putting a Mac OS in a container, which Mac OS is not in a container. That's not a thing. So we had to solve some interesting challenges around how to wrap Mac OS without changing the OS and how to let it have access to the hardware that it should run without getting too far in the way, but still providing some value in the middle to help us really let you move around your hardware that we're giving you.
So, again, I think I have a handle on some of this, but I have to ask, it feels like to me it would be a bit of a moving target because you're running the Mac OS, so you get everything working, and then Apple brings out Mac OS Catalina.
Right.
So
right.
How much of a problem does that present for you?
Actually, so we took some deliberate steps to alleviate that concern. So we put a lot of effort into the container that holds the OS to make sure it, again, stayed out of the way of the concerns that would cause a problem. So we don't modify the Mac OS that goes in our container at all. So when they update the OS, it doesn't cause problems or changes for us. We just have to make sure the wrapper container is up to date and doing what it needs to do.
Is it fair to compare any of this to a virtual machine?
Yeah, it actually is sort of a evolution of VMs. So containers think of them as more flexible, lightweight virtual machines where you care less about the OS and more about the app in the virtual machine.
So let's just say I am currently a customer of MacStadium. Is this something I can implement with my existing colo or the existing server that I get from you?
So not yet. Right now what we're doing is providing beta capacity that's additional capacity for MacStadium, but it basically comes in a cluster, so it's 3 Mac Pros with a command and control that we give to you that has Orka software on it. You can run that side by side with your existing infrastructure, and then if you decide you like it, you can scale out from there. But right now in the beta mode, we're kind of making sure we purpose build the hardware the way it needs to be for this product.
So it is more specific hardware for this than...
Yeah, well, it's not so much from the Apple side of things, but there's a architecture that comes with sort of how you typically build Kubernetes that assumes you have more than one host and some redundancy and some scalability. They call it a cluster. So what we've done is build the smallest unit cluster we think is viable for Apple hardware and said, okay, we'll let you start with this, and then if you need to grow from there, you can.
So again, we're skirting on the edges of my understanding, but this sounds very much like something that is principally for developers, and that is your audience here.
Yeah.
And so this is perfect. You're playing to your audience in a big way.
Right. Well, and DevOps has been a big thing that started to take over development in general, and that's obviously the concept that developers are having to know more and more about infrastructure because of how things work and how things are built. And what we're trying to do at MacStadium is help our developer community swing back more toward the development side and away from the operational side, because they love our products, they love the hardware. A lot of them even use VMware to scale out these really massive virtualized clouds, but the common complaint we hear is, well, it's still a lot of work. I mean, you guys are taking care of the care and feeding of all the things now, but I still kind of have to know when I get 20 of these things how to hook them all together, or I've got to learn all this vCenter stuff, and that's not my code. That's me clicking around making VMs and snapping images and building storage, and we really wish it was just easier to just get in and develop. So, like I said, Orka kind of brings some of these tools that let you issue a single, create my VM command, and up you go, and it knows where to put it on the infrastructure, and you kind of stay in your dev land a little bit more.
So it sounds, I mean, again, I think I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like you solve a lot of people's problems by just creating that ideal development environment so they don't have to mess with some of these other things. They just use your platform and go to town. Yeah,
and that is the goal, is to make that administration of the platform a lot easier for them. And we're also extending it into plugins for like Jenkins and BuildKite and other platforms where they can not only use it easily, but basically stay in their build pipeline tool and do their work and have it do it for them. So,
Should we talk about pricing, or is that something that's not been determined yet?
Still a little early, and I'll tap out as a sales guy. I run software development, so I'll let them set what they want. But it'll be similar to our private cloud offering and pricing initially. So I do know that. Specific numbers you'd have to get with the sales team.
Well, sure, and if it's still in beta, there's always that wiggle room that they may not have decided yet. So
yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
We're really trying to get a lot of customers in to really kick the tires and tell us what we can do better, because we want it to be the best it can be when it comes out.
That's cool. So the folks that want to learn more about all this or already understand all this and want to take advantage, the website is
www.MacStadium.com/Orka.
Perfect. Orka. I like Orka.
Yeah, and it's Orka with a K, so ORKA. And then you can actually go find out about it there. There's docs online, and if you want to try out a beta, there's a sign-up sheet, and we actually do custom onboarding and kind of handhold you through the process so you learn a little bit about the environment when you onboard.
Chris, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Take care. Folks, this is MacVoices at AltConf and WWDC. Back with more soon. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.